Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I will be your token American who's going to be discussing all of the reasons why I love Australia. A bit of a backstory, but I was actually born in Australia, grew up in this very house until I was 8 years old, moved over to California and have since moved back about 2 years ago. So I feel like I give an interesting perspective of enjoying all of these things about Australia as a kid and then leaving it and then coming back. I grew up with all these things that are Australian and then I spent so long in America just like getting rid of those things. So coming back to it has been so important to me and so great to just explore and learn more things about Australia. Because especially as a kid, I feel like you just kind of take it for granted and you don't really know what's happening or going on. But having now the perspective of living in another country for a long time and then now coming back, it's just like, oh my God, I've just learned so much about Australia and that is what I'm excited to talk to you guys about today. Also, you might be reading my shirt and just saying, Chicago, what's going on there? And funny little story, but this was actually bought in Australia too, like not even in America. And I'm American. Like what? But yeah, we're back here on my couch today. Holy shit, you guys blew up the freaking last video. So of course I have to make a part 2 because there are so many freaking reasons why I love Australia. I have my laptop today. We're going to be going through the full freaking list, but I wanted to kind of segment this video into 3 different parts. So we've got everyday life and lifestyle perks, Aussie culture, style, and vibes, and then also a little bit more about like the systems, the structure. I don't know how I'm gonna really end up titling that. It'll be fun to talk about at the end. Also, because I have to make a little disclaimer, of course I do. These are all my opinions on why I love Australia as well. And if you disagree with any of my points, that is totally fine. I love a little bit of a debate. Feel free to drop your thoughts down in the comments. I love reading through them and we can learn a little bit more about Australia together. From the last video, I made a comment about eggs, how they're more nutritious in Australia because they're like more orange. Apparently, it's just because they feed the chickens different things that just have carotenoids in them, which gives them a different color. It's kind of like when you eat a bunch of carrots and like your skin kind of goes a little orange. Same kind of vibe with the chickens, which I had no idea. All right, let's get into it. So when I moved back to Australia, I didn't realize there were so many little things that are little Australian quirks and like little things that Australians do that I just didn't pick up on or notice as a kid, or maybe I just wasn't in a situation where I could pick up on it. So for example, when girls are texting each other, this could be like on DMs, it could be Facebook Messenger when you're setting up an event. I found that Australian girls love to put a little XX or like an XO after they send something. Hey girl, can you make sure that you bring plates for the weekend? XX. And it means hugs and kisses. Well, I think the X's mean kisses and the O's mean hugs. I don't know, it's just like a cute little quirk. Like I feel like in California, at least my friend circle, we would all just use like emojis. And the girls here do use emojis, but like, I don't know, it's so cute. Like a little XXOO. I feel like that's also something like my grandma would do. So it's kind of funny that like my grandma does it, but also like a bunch of the girlies do it too. So shout out to my girlies if you write X's and O's. Also kind of speaking of events as well, everyone here uses Facebook Messenger. I had not used Facebook, I think, since I was like 13 years old. Kind of a shock to me that everyone's like, oh my God, you don't use your Facebook account? Like you don't use Facebook Messenger or like Facebook Marketplace? And I was like, what the hell? Even though I was living in literally the place that Facebook was invented, I just didn't use Facebook. It was like Instagram for everything, or like, I'm trying to even think if there was an event, I think we would just make like a group chat, like an Apple text message group chat. There wasn't really like an events page, but here everything is on Facebook. Even if there's like big organized events where it could be like, you know, Tuesday trivia or anything like that, like it is on Facebook, which was kind of a shock to me where I was like, oh my God, I just haven't used this app in forever. And everyone freaking uses it here. It's like so normal. One thing that I appreciated so much about living in Australia too is direct bank transfers. I feel like America is like just starting to do it now, but when I was living over there 2 years ago, everyone used this one app called Venmo, which was like a third party. So what you'd have to do is you would transfer from your bank account into your Venmo account. Your Venmo account, you would pay someone else and then they could transfer that into their own bank. So it's kind of like all these extra steps. And I remember you could pay to get it transferred instantly, or you could transfer it and you'd have to wait 3 days, but there was like no fee attached. And I'm like, that is such a cheeky little way to get extra money instead of just using the Australian way, which is like direct bank transfer. Especially in my office, if someone's like getting a cake or like we're getting a gift for someone's birthday, we'll all just bank transfer the person directly. And it's like the money shows up instantly in their account. It's like something that you don't have to worry about. So huge plus. And I freaking love Australia for that because it's just like easy. We're not complicating it. We don't have to have a middleman. It's just straightforward. Holy, I never thought I would appreciate not tipping so much in a damn country. It's actually crazy. in California, I had never really worked a job where you would get tips. The only places I worked in were like a grocery store and a clothing store, but I never worked at like maybe like a food or like restaurant type of place. More so like as a consumer or as like a shopper, anytime you'd go out, you'd have to pay tip on everything. Also, I'm gonna go visit California in a month. So if you guys have any ideas or things that you wanna see while I go to America, definitely drop that down in the comments because I'm trying to gather my ideas before I actually head over there. So let me know. Yeah, the tipping culture I feel like is just so unfair over in America because the reason why that they're doing tips is because the actual workers are not getting paid what they should be. A little bit of a story, but my family and I, we all went out to Utah, which is like in the middle of America. And we went to this one steak restaurant and the food was awesome. Everything was like, you know, pretty expensive as well. It's like a steak restaurant. I think it was like Brazilian steakhouse. And my mom was just talking to one of the waitresses and they got into conversation and she was saying how she only gets like $2 an hour and then she's supposed to make the rest of her normal wage on tips. $2 an hour. You freaking heard that right. And that was only like 4 or 5 years ago. So it's not like the inflation brought it up very much. Like that is crazy. $2 an hour. And the thing is like if she just didn't get tipped well enough that week, like she just wouldn't get paid her normal amount. So her wage was like constantly going up and down. And she was working her ass off too. Like she was a great waitress too. So I'm just like, what the hell? That is insane. I know that's not everywhere, but I know just like generally within the hospitality space in America, like that's how it kind of goes. Like salary is like minimum wage, but then you're supposed to be making extra money on tips. But what if just not a lot of people come in that day? Or what if people just aren't tipping that much? You know, like it's so up in the air on whether you're going to get like decently paid that time. So that's why they say that like the service is better in America because of tipping. I think the mindset in Australia is a little bit different. Like when you're going out and like getting a service from someone, they're just doing their job because they're just generally making like a good wage. If you were getting $2 an hour, I'd be like, hell no, I'm not putting in extra effort because like, why does that matter? So I feel like as well, when I would go over to restaurants in America, but I found that service was a little bit more faker because people are trying to be overly nice so that you do pay them. I recently saw this post on Reddit where this user had posted about how in Australia they were trying to add tips to certain restaurants. Like there was one restaurant they would just automatically add tip to make sure that, you know, the restaurant goer didn't notice and people were pissed. So I am so happy, love you Australians, that we are not bringing tipping here because, oh my God, it's absurd. Pay your freaking employees and then you don't have to worry about it. Now, I have a student loan over in America, but I don't have a student loan here. But talking to all my cousins, they told me about what's called HECS. So HECS is a way to pay back your student debt, but through your wage. So it's almost a little bit like salary sacrificing, I guess. But what it is like, the government takes the money out of your account before you even see the money. It's kind of like an extra tax, but it goes to paying off your student debt. And I think that's so much of a smarter way to go about paying your student debt because like it's just something that you don't have to think about. It comes out automatically. But I feel like for me, especially being in Australia now and having to send money over from Australian dollars to US dollars, it just complicates the whole thing. So if I had everything just set up automatically, I don't even have to think about it, then I would for sure do that. Also with HECS debt, I think it only kicks in once you start making a certain amount of money, which I also think is super smart. So like, let's say you're earning like under 50K Australian dollars a year, then you don't have to pay your HECS until you earn a certain amount, then you start paying it off. Which I'm like, oh my God, that is so smart. Because what if you were like unemployed or something? So Australia, love you for the HECS debt. I wish I had my student loan in Australia, but unfortunately I do not. Also just generally like the universities are a lot cheaper than they are in the US, so shout out for that. Now, because I work a corporate job on the side of doing this YouTube channel, I've really got to understand more of like the annual leave, the public holidays, all of that side of things from Australia's point of view. One friggin' thing that I think is the most amazing thing ever is long service leave. So long service leave is that when you stay with one company for at least 10 years, then you get a full 6 months off. Well, I think you do like 6 months of half pay or 3 months at full pay. Like then a ton of people go travel Australia, they go like explore the world, like or maybe they take time off to like be with their family. I think it's one of the most amazing things ever and I am so proud of the country for being able to support and do that. And it's like standard everywhere. Because I feel like in America you'd get certain benefits if you worked at a company that provided the benefits, so it's up to the company itself. But for this one it's like the country as a whole, like every single company does that. You do have to stay at the same company for 10 years, but I feel like, you know, you're putting in your service to the company, so they're kind of like paying you back for that. Also, it's quite standard across the board to have 4 weeks of annual leave. In America, for comparison, the standard is to have 2 weeks of annual leave, which I think is insane. Like, how do you go anywhere with 2 weeks of leave? I know a lot of companies will like add an extra benefit. Unlimited leave, like you can do whatever you want and go on as many holidays as you want, blah, blah, blah. Just have to get manager approval, whatever. But here it's like built into the system as well. Also at my company, if you stay there for 3 years, you get an extra week of leave on top of that too. So it's like there's all these benefits that you can add on top of the already existing annual leave, which I feel like is pretty good. I am comparing that to America, where it's just like literally bottom line like so bad, and like what the hell. Maternity leave and paternity leave is like absolutely horribly short. So I think Australia is pretty good, but I know there's other countries that have even better annual leaves. It's all in perspective. Generally as well, I feel like Australia has so much of a healthier lifestyle, especially in their takeout food. So I feel like takeout food in America, it's obviously known as being very unhealthy. There's lots of oils, McDonald's fries that like don't get moldy even if you put them in a container for like a year, they just don't grow mold on them. Definitely America can be a little sus with their takeout food, but Australia is a lot healthier for that. I definitely go to GYG a little bit too often. It's even labeled as like a healthier takeout. Takeaway sushi that you can get, and like a bunch of like salad places and smoothie places. It's not all super healthy, but I feel like you at least get more of an option. In America, I feel like you have to be like living in a bougie area like LA or like a big city or something to get that kind of food. But here you can kind of get it on a road trip, for example, or maybe at a mall. Like I feel like there's just a little bit more options, and people just generally have a better idea of a healthy lifestyle and wanting to support that life. So good job, Australia. Next section. All right, now we're going to be talking about Aussie culture, the style, and the vibes. One thing I think is so cute that I just like didn't pick up on until I moved back over is the way that people pronounce parts of the alphabet in Australia. For example, when you say the letter H, oh my God, I feel like I'm on Sesame Street, but Australians will pronounce it as H. If you were to spell out the letter H, it sounds like H, like with a H sound at the beginning. And then also Z is Z. So for example, Anzac Day is coming up next week, and that is ANZAC. That's how you would spell it rather than ANZAC. It's just like a little bit of a quirky little thing that Australians do and how they pronounce stuff. One thing I found so funny, and this is actually when me and my friend went up to Sydney too, we just got to see like all the different names and like naming schemes at different places. I feel like the Australian way of naming things is absolutely so fun. I think a lot of people have heard of Wagga Wagga, which is a town so nice that they named it twice. There's also Woolloomooloo. Me and my friend, when we went to Sydney, we stayed in a hotel in Woolloomooloo. There's also just like, oh my God, all these different names, which I think are absolutely so fun. Sometimes when I'm bored too, I will just go on Google Maps and like zoom into a bunch of different areas and just read out the names of the cities and like the little towns, because they just have such fun names. Like it's just really, really cool, which I love. There also with the suburbs too, there are some fun nicknames. I found like this like big map where they renamed all of the towns their nicknames. For example, like Footscray was called like Footscary. Sunshine was called Scumshine. Now Aussie fashion, I could probably do an entire video on this because I think it's absolutely so cool and fun and different at the same time. Like I feel like there's the trendy side, like everyone on TikTok is like, oh my God, Australian girls have the best fashion. And I feel like it's so true. Every time I go out, it's like, oh my God, everyone's a model, everyone's wearing the cutest little sets, everyone's dressed to the freaking nine, and they have their cute little digi cameras and they're like taking photos and stuff. And then there's also this like super alternative, like thrifting kind of vibe where it's like everything is super unique and individual. I would have never imagined that kind of fashion combo before together, but like I see it, all these different variations. I don't even know how to explain it, but there is like a term that people call it around here, at least in Melbourne, which is called normcore, but you would say with an accent, you'd say like nomcore. Was my Australian accent good? I don't actually know. Because the traditional owners of the land had named the area that Melbourne is on Nam. So that's what Melbourne is sometimes referred to as Nam. So because of that, people named it like Namcore. God, that sounds so bad, like coming out of my mouth because I don't have an Australian accent. But yeah, it's a little wild and a little crazy. And it's like, there's a whole trend in itself within that space too. So I think it's cool and unique. I think it's really cool that people feel super comfortable to like show themselves and like really push their identities like through their outfits too, which I just love. So love you, Australia, for that. A little food item as well. I love fairy bread. I remember bringing fairy bread to my friends over in California and they thought it was the freaking best thing ever. 10-year-old me was running around with hundreds and thousands and some white bread and butter, and I was making so many friends on the playground because fairy bread is just iconic. If you know, you know. Another thing to kind of add to the vibe of Australia is the amount of cool musicians and artists that come out of this damn country. Oh my God, there's like something in the water here. I don't know what it is, but like a lot of athletes and a lot of musicians that come from Australia. For example, there's people like AC/DC, Kylie Minogue, Tame Impala, Troye Sivan. The list freaking goes on. There are so many banger artists that come out of Australia. I love it for that. I feel like Melbourne and Australia, like just in generally, I think of it as like a more artistic place and a more like, you know, express yourself place. That's why I feel like that kind of experience can flourish. And maybe that's why we have so many musicians and so many great artists and like people that come out of Australia. But love you, Australia. Good job for that. Wow, I really only had like one point to talk about in the last section. So really it's just about heritage. But one thing I've really noticed as well is that in Australia, there's a lot of preservations for heritage buildings. So that will be like something that's really ancient or like really ancient, meaning like built like 200 years ago. Australia is really not that old in the grand scheme of things, but they do like to preserve those kinds of buildings. It can be kind of frustrating, I would say, like if you're someone in construction or someone who, you know, maybe wants to rebuild a house, there are certain guidelines where it's like, okay, you can't get rid of the outside trim on this house. It can be great because like obviously you get to keep a lot of the design and like the old kind of culture that used to be in Australia. You can still keep that now, but also it would kind of suck if you like want to do your own thing and you can't do what you want because of the guidelines around it. I like that when you're going around different suburbs, like you can see more of this like old time 1900 style coming through as well. Also, if you got to this part in the video, leave a kangaroo emoji. We haven't used a kangaroo emoji yet. Shocking, I know. But that just shows me that you made it all the way to the end of this video and I know that you're a real one. Anyways, that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Honestly, I think it's so cool that I can sit on my little couch and like talk about fun little things that I love about Australia and just like share my experiences. And all of you guys care enough to see what I talk about. So thank you. I will see you guys in the next video. Much love, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.